But I want to give you an analogy. I think this may be my best one to describe my feelings on last night's Jets game, and then we'll dive right in. So remember when you're asking a girl out on a date for the first time? Or you're asking a guy out on a date for the first time? And you screwed everything up. Your breath smelled. I will call the breath smelling the equivalent of Malachi Corley dropping a football before he gets into the end zone. And then, as you're trying to ask her out, you screw up her name. You don't even know her name as you're trying to ask her out. I would say that's the equivalent of, I don't know, a roughing the kicker penalty that extends a drive, right? And then you're like, all right, here's what we're going to do on said day. We're going to do this and this and this. I would say that's the equivalent of a personal foul where you make illegal contact with a snapper on a field goal attempt. Like, literally, you bleeped everything up. But then somehow, some way, she said yes. And that was last night's Jet game.
Yes, it was.
They did so much crap that infuriated all of us. Don't forget about it just because they won. Like, they did things that caused you to reevaluate your life as a football fan. But at the end of the day, when you put your head on the pillow at 11:35, just like when you finally got done bumbling the ask out, she said yes. And so you won, but you feel like a real schmuck.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me in this game is the Jets are still in the hunt. That's about all I could get. I'm joking because the second half was obviously fantastic. They had 3 drives. They scored on all 3 of them. They were long, extended drives. I think they were 31 plays in those 3 drives, all resulting in touchdowns. Those touchdowns were all kind of big-ish plays. And so I give them credit for that because it's hard to make those kind of high-difficulty big plays. But overall, this game was hideous. Hideous on both sides, now for the Texans and for the Jets. And I told you guys this yesterday only because I've called the Texans like 3,000 times in this season, it feels like. They're overrated. Their offensive line is bad.
Yeah.
They gave up 8 sacks. They the number of pressures. I think he was pressured on like 60% of his dropbacks, which is just, it's ludicrous. So a great young talent who's starting to perform very poorly because he doesn't trust the guys in front of him, the offensive line in front of him. But that's not the Jets' fault. The Jets took advantage of it.
Right.
Give them credit for beating the crap out of them for 8 sacks. But with the first half of this game was just disgusting to watch.
It was awful.
It felt like, as Sean said in our text chat, a preseason game. The problem is we're week 9.
Yeah.
And it looks like a preseason game in the first half of the Jets and the Texans last night. So kudos on the win, right? You're alive in the conversation for the postseason, even though very few teams at 3-6 have made it to the postseason. But, I mean, it's hard to feel good about how they perform, other than the fact that they won.
And that's why, like, I wouldn't describe my feelings as, oh, I feel good. I'm thrilled they won. And I think if you're a Jet fan, of course, the ending emotion that you had was they won a football game. Yep. They kept their season alive. They lose last night. They now have 7 losses. The math just tells you they're dead. Now, are the odds very high that they're going to find a way to make the playoffs? No.
18%?
18%? It feels lower than that, by the way. I mean, those are the actual analytics. Let me give you the Evan analytics, okay? Being a Jet fan and watching this team, their percentage is more like 2%. That's the reality. So I'm thrilled they won the game. When I went to sleep last night, I had like that half a smile of, all right, we won the game. But it was ugly.
Yep.
It was bad at times, and they made mistakes. And look, I remember arguing with you guys week 2, week 3, and I said, it's early. You know what? Just get that victory, move on, and you got to fix those mistakes. You are 9 weeks into a football season. 9 weeks. I know he's a rookie. I know he's barely been on the field. But you cannot, on a brilliant play call by Todd Downing, by the way, the end around of Malachi Corley, you can't drop the football before you get in the end zone. You can't commit dumb penalties
you see that in
when
college.
the Texans are punting the ball away.
Right. You see these things in college.
Can't happen here.
Right.
Can't happen in the NFL. And I know it turned out to be like hilarious and we could all have a good time about it when Eric Watts committed that infraction, that personal foul, and the Texans took points off the board, and then the Jet defense stopped them, and then Fairbairn missed a 27-yarder, so we all laughed and said, oh, Eric Watts, he's such a genius. Bro, you can't have that happen. and that's the thing that it's very tough to get past. And I think that's the emotion maybe some Jet fans have today. They won, and that's great. But my God, did they make you age 15 years watching that kind of garbage football? And if they're going to go on the magical run that we're all hoping for, they got to be better than the garbage we saw, especially in the first half of that game.
This was okay, we got to win. Let's get to the next one. Good thing we have 10 days off before they have to go out to Arizona next weekend. And this isn't one you celebrate. The only thing you're going to celebrate out of this game is the amazing one-handed pass-catching ability of Garrett Wilson. Because those two catches, I think the first one was harder with the Petrie undercutting him and him just stabbing at it. Because, that ball easily could have been intercepted.
Right.
Or not, whatever. It easily could have gone the other way and had a really negative result. Instead, it's like he just blindly stuck his hand out there.
It was incredible.
And it stuck. And it was just that one, the level of difficulty, I thought was harder than the second one, which is going to get all of the attention, simply because on the second one, he could see it.
Yeah.
Right? He had the advantage. He's up against Kamari Lassiter, who's a rookie from Texas. Good player, but still, he's a rookie. He's no idea where this ball is going. He can't play it. And Garrett Wilson is just looking at it like, all right, I got this. And he just stabs it. That one was easy. The first one was spectacular to me.
You know what's crazy?
Because the first one, the throw was great. Yeah. It was a perfectly weighted ball.
Well, it's about time.
By Aaron Rodgers.
Because Aaron Rodgers sucked in the first half, too.
Yeah, he did.
How inaccurate was he? And you saw it right from get. Garrett Wilson made two incredible plays, and they deserve all the attention they're going to get today, and we'll give it the proper attention it deserves. But I say this as a complete non-athlete. Haven't we kind of seen this a lot lately? Guys make great one-handed catches.
Yeah,
Isn't that a part of football in 2024?
The gloves are sticky. It's easy. They practice it.
It feels... You know what it's like?
Odell ruined it for all of us.
Odell kind of did.
He did.
You know what it reminds me of?
Every kid tries to do this.
You're right. You're right. They do.
They don't learn the fundamentals. Well, they probably learn the fundamentals, but they don't want to practice the fundamentals.
Yeah, it's like the cool thing to do. And look, I'm not lying to you telling you I can make a one-handed catch, but I believe the one-handed catch in the NFL has become like the crazy dunk in the NBA. We're no longer impressed by crazy dunks. Like if you watched
in the game,
I really mean the slam dunk contest. Like if you watch a slam dunk contest from 25 years ago, you actually wouldn't even be that impressed. But at the time, it felt so amazing. So what Vince Carter did and Dominique Wilkins did was amazing. You watch it today and you're like bored to tears. That's almost like the great catch in the NFL. So I'm not telling you it wasn't an amazing catch. I'm not telling you I didn't jump out of my chair. I did. I did say holy bleep out loud. So I was enamored by the moment, but I think it was more enamored by the moment because it was a big moment for the Jets.
Right.
Because they scored a touchdown. They scored two of them. You mentioned the two plays that Garrett Wilson made. But in general, I don't know. I've almost become desensitized to the amazing catch because I feel like we see it every week.
It's true. No, you do. There's somebody with a one-handed catch every single week. And I remember when Odell did it, it was like, man, I've never seen that level of reaching behind you, contorted body, not contested because the ball would have got slapped away if it was actually contested. But you know what I mean? There's a defender there. It's hard. Not only do you got to catch it, then you got to get your feet down because they're both on the sideline. But now I feel like I see it frequently.
We do.
I feel like Nico Collins, who didn't play in this game for the Houston Texans, he does this every couple of weeks.
Right.
Just a one-handed grab. Now, it's not always just with his hand, but you see tight ends do it all the time. Quarterbacks zip the ball in. So it's lost its luster, but this one was pretty good.
Well, the luster to me was it put them up, 14-10.
14-10, yeah.
Like the luster to me was they're trying to win a football game. We as fans are trying to witness a football win. We haven't seen the Jets win a game since the MLB regular season was going on. Think about that. The Mets were playing the Phillies on a Thursday night and Lindor had a bad back. That was the last time the Jets won a game, just to put it in baseball calendar terms with the baseball season ending.
That's crazy when you put it that way.
That's how long it had been since the Jets won a game. So when Garrett Wilson makes that play and you start to see this team overcome the mess and the disgustingness that we saw in the first half, I'm relieved that they're winning. But the one thing I can't be, all right, I wish I could. I wish I could be that naive little fanboy to tell you, it's all good, baby. We back. We're going. The playoffs. Let's do it. I can't think that because there's nothing about last night that leads me to this all being sustainable. Aaron Rodgers sucked in the first half of this game, and he was completely inaccurate. And I respect Aaron Rodgers because after the game, he admitted it. He knew that on the first play of the game, he blew it with Devontae Adams wide open. He knew it. He knew he wasn't effective. And then the mental mistakes that we saw so often in the Robert Saleh administration continued in this game. Like, it was ugly. So a win is a win, and you take it and you bottle it. But I don't know how any sane Jet fan could walk away from last night thinking this is the beginning of some kind of magical run.
No, it was good to win. It's always good to win. We say it all the time. Even if you win ugly, you win because it keeps you, in this case, alive. We said it at the top of the show. We keep saying it. They're technically alive.
Sure.
There are a lot of mediocre to bad teams in the NFL, AFC and NFC. And so by being in the hunt, so to speak, the Jets can live another day.
Yeah.
They can have something to fight for. They can rally around one another and say nobody believes in us, and against all odds, we're gonna get better each. You can rhetoric this,
yeah,
because it's a victory, and it's been a long time since they've had a victory, but they got to be a lot better than this to beat some of the teams that they're going to have, in the future.
And Teak, they're 9 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Like, if this was week 2 or week 3, I would be saying that rhetoric of, you know what, you take the wins and you'll get better. I have no reason to believe they're going to get better. And that's not me trying to rain on our parade as Jet fans. Again, I'm happy they won. I'm just being realistic. And you made the point about extending the season. Let me give you some cross-sports analogies on what I think the Jets did last night. I'll start with basketball. It's basketball season. Big Nick game tonight in Detroit against the Pistons. You're down by 8 in the final minute, and your goal is to just extend the game. Mm-hmm. Score points, stop the clock, extend the game. Foul, hit your 3, foul. Now all of a sudden you're down by 5. It is still unrealistic that you're going to win, but you're accomplishing the goal of just extending the game.
Right.
I'll give you a baseball analogy. I said it the other day about Luke Weaver. I'll go to my best relievers early in an elimination game because I need to keep the game alive.
Right.
I need to keep myself in it, then we'll see what happens late in the game.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. Go to Edwin Diaz in the 4th or 5th inning of an elimination game, Game 6 Mets-Dodgers, because I just have to keep things alive. And then maybe the miracle will happen. What the Jets did last night by winning, as ugly as it was, is they kept themselves alive. You're right. The season isn't over.
No, of course not.
But it takes a lot of real positive thought. That's why we hired Positive Tommy, to convince yourself that what we saw last night, the good and the bad, is going to somehow lead to this football team not losing again the rest of the year. Because the reality is that's what they're going to have to do.
Yep.
If you want to make the playoffs, 10 wins may not get you there.
Yeah. And look, they have I don't want to say it's favorable, but they're in Arizona next week. They have the Colts. Now, Joe Flacco's starting, so Joe Flacco, when he was starting, as opposed to Anthony Richardson, the Colts are a much more viable team. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. You're not going to lose. You're not going to get beat by them because you're not going to beat them because their quarterback plays terribly.
It's also become a Joe Flacco revenge game.
Right, exactly. And in Seattle and Miami, Jacksonville, there are winnable games on the back end of this Jets schedule. And you get a late bye week, which is, I think, a good thing for this Jets team. But you ultimately got to play better than you did last night. And yes, it's a win. It feels good. Obviously, you were yarded by the Texans, even though they played terribly. It just tells you how. I mean, he didn't throw for 200 yards. You know what I mean? It
didn't help, but he threw for like 30 in the first half.
I know.
The first half was dreadful.
And it's almost incomprehensible.
Yes.
That Aaron Rodgers would have less than 50 yards and a half.
And I don't want anyone to forget this. Aaron Rodgers was booed heavily last night at MetLife Stadium. We all heard it. Mm-hmm. We all heard. And I don't blame anybody that went to MetLife last night for opening their mouths and booing at the disgustingness we saw in the first half of this game. Let's not forget, 3 and out. That included a Breece Hall drop, Aaron Rodgers missing a wide-open Devontae Adams, and a sack. That's how the game started. And then on their second drive, Breece Hall, I love the guy, had a 12-yard run. And what does he do immediately? He puts the football on the ground.
Yep.
Then you've got the Corley fumble. Then you've got a 3 and out right after Joe Mixon ran the ball down their throats. The offense in the first half of this game was as inept as we've ever seen it under Zach Wilson. So the boos that rained down last night were understandable.
Right.
I got it. Now, I'm not ignoring what happened in the second half. It was amazing. It was amazing. I love the fact that Garrett Wilson made 2 incredible plays. I love the fact that they went for it on a 4th and 1 and then got bailed out on illegal contact. I love the crap out of it. I love the fact that they went for it on a 4th and 2 and Devontae Adams basically put a cornerback in a blender. Like, all that was great. But my God, there's not enough for me to start saying, here we go. We're going to the playoffs.
Tommy, are you proud of yourself? Last night or yesterday afternoon, you gave an impassioned Jet, positive Tommy Jet rant. And I actually believed it for the first time, as a Jet, positive Tommy-er. I believed it. You happy? You feel good about yourself?
I am, Tiki. The positive Tommy Jets are 1-0. From the darkness...
What happened to the Patriot game?
What?
What happened to the Patriot game?
He was faking it that
was preseason.
Yeah.
The positive Tommy Jets are 1-0. From the darkness to the light, your season is back on. Anything could happen. And coming up a little bit later in the show, I give you the reason why the Jets are going to the playoffs.
Oh, I can't wait. Because you know what? Positive Tommy is something I need in my life right now.
I believe in positive Tommy.
Because I never believed with the Mets all year, and now we're back in the same boat. I don't believe again. So maybe positive Tommy can lead us to the promised land. We'll get to your calls reacting to last night, 888-808-1019. There's a lot to get to, including more on that catch made by Garrett Wilson and the natural comparisons to Odell Beckham Jr. Plus, we addressed something else that happened at MetLife Stadium last night. There weren't just boos for Aaron Rodgers. There weren't just cheers when Garrett Wilson got in the end zone multiple times. There was a very loud, audible chant that was heard at MetLife Stadium and that we will let you take a listen to and we'll analyze. Plus, why I only don't blame Corley for that debacle in the first half.